Hey guys, Charlie Murphy here. I'm playing a session of 1-2 No Limit 6 Max games on Ignition. Thank you for choosing my video. Upper left-hand table, open 10-8 suited from the cutoff. Range bet small, got check called by a recreational player, picked up a backdoor flush draw on the turn. I'm going to continue barreling with that using the overbet or check size here. We don't need to go quite as big as I usually do. They'll make it more like 22. Because he's a bit shorter, we don't need to blast quite as large. Could be blasting with my various sets, hands like ace-queen, ace-5, ace-4. Probably trap with aces because I've got the board so locked down, especially for an overbet size. Also have a variety of flush draws and some open-ended draws like 7-6 suited I can be barreling with as a semi-bluff. Upper left-hand table is going to defend the 2.5x button open from my big blind with ace-9. When there's a 3-bet, though, from the small blind, I'll just go ahead and fold it. Play cold 4-bet or fold on that spot and just get out of the way with a hand like ace-9. Lower left-hand table, I'll open ace-jack from middle position using a 21% range. Upper left-hand table, we have a blind-on-blind situation with 9-5 suited. That's just a bit outside my standard open range, so I'll go ahead and fold that one. Got called by the player that had posted a dead blind and then squeezed from the small blind. In that particular situation, I'll just go ahead and fold ace-jack against the squeeze. Upper left-hand table, we get a min raise from what's effectively the cutoff. I'm on the button with ace-jack. Going to go ahead and put in a 3-bet against this player. Well, actually, because he's shorter, that may change the calculus a bit. I'm going to treat that almost like a cold 4-bet or fold situation, and ace-jack is a bit outside the range of hands I want to play. I just don't want to have too many hands pre-flop, so I'm going to go ahead and fold that one. Lower right-hand table, face a 3x open in a blind battle. I'll go ahead and 3-bet with ace-3. That's one of the combos I like to use as a pre-flop bluff in the blind-on-blind situation. 3-betting very aggressively here, 17-18%. He calls the 3-bet, then checks to me on the flop. We get a king-king-9 rainbow board. I'll go ahead and put in a small range bet, mostly checking turns. Probably checking every turn here with this particular hand. Continue barreling with king X type hands. I want to go for 3 streets. Pocket 9s. 9s full would be a good hand to keep barreling. I think I would prioritize, well, it depends on the turn card that comes. On that particular turn card, I think my best semi-bluffs are going to be my gut shot draws, especially stuff with removal to king X, so stuff like queen jack, queen 10, jack 10. Ace-3, I can just go ahead and check back. Can also check back and trap with my quad kings. Maybe a hand like king 9 as well could be a trap. Some weaker kings just for balance would also be in the check back range just to under rep and pick off some bluffs that I induce or under rep and get some value on the river in the bet check bet line. The river he goes and he leads into me for looks like about 75% of pot. This is a spot we can actually bluff raise pretty aggressively. I'm going to go ahead and try to move him off a hand here. If he doesn't have a king, I think he's done for. He does, however, have a king, so he's not done for, and I just bluffed off a stack. Upper left-hand table, going to open kings, middle position, using a 21% range. Lower left-hand table, get a short stack recreational player in the cutoff limp, so I'm going to go ahead and isolate over him in the small blind completion from the big blind with pocket kings. ISOing tight here, about 12%. Pocket eights are better and mostly suited Broadway type cards. Get a queen, queen, jack rainbow board. I'll go ahead and range bet small. He quickly calls. Turn is the queen. That's a pretty good card for me in that it's a lot harder for him to have the queen now that beats me, and nothing else really has me scared. I'm going to go ahead and check this. I'm just not that worried about him outdrawing me with ace high. Going to go ahead and put the money in on the river. Can also sort of induce bluffs by checking the turn there. A little more than pot left on the river. I've got kings full of, or queens full of kings. I'm just going to go ahead and ship this in, try to get called by a jack, an ace, ace high, some kind of random pocket pair or 9x that made a full house. He snap calls and it goes straight into the muck. And he had the jack for a full house, jack 8 offsuit. Lower left or upper left hand table, going to open ace 5 blind on blind using a 45% range. Lower right hand table, going to open ace 10 from the cutoff using a 28% range. Lower right hand table, going to open ace queen for middle position using a 21% range. Again, opening in the lower right-hand table, this time under the gun with King Jack using an 18% range. Lower right-hand table at a 2.5x open from middle position. The cutoff player just left, I believe, before that raise came in, so I'm going to treat that as the cutoff and middle position and not the cutoff effectively. I will defend for a call out of my big blind with 8-9 suited and check range on the flop. He goes and he bets half pot. I've got some decent back doors. He bets about a little less than 40% of pot. I got some decent back doors. He's using a small size, and I'm going to go ahead and attack this and continue barreling if I do pick up some equity, such as a 6, a club. Gonna have king, queen, and pocket 7s here. Pick up the ace. Going to continue, or pick up the ace of clubs rather. Going to continue barreling, having picked up the flush draw. Lower left-hand table can defend the 3x open blind on blind with 5-4 up, so it's right around the bottom of my defense range. He comes along, trying to see here. I do think I just want to move all in here. is a bluff. I don't want to show down my 9 high. I want to use the overbet size in this spot. If I ran into Jack 10, or you can have a lot of strong hands here like aces up, various sets. But I'm not giving up here. We'll float that flop bet. Upper right-hand table, going to go ahead and squeeze from the small blind against the 3x cutoff open and the fishy player overcall on the button. God, I'm thinking about it. My squeeze gets jammed on the upper right-hand table, so I just go ahead and fold. I got the check raise triple off through, which is nice. Little concerned about my image after my spazzy bluff shove got called a little way back, but who knows if these guys are even paying attention. Lower right-hand table, going to follow through with my bluffing here after I floated the flop and barreled the turn with my open-ender. I'm not going to show down 5 high. I'm not going to be using the overbet size here. I just don't have that many strong hands. You know, aces and jacks are not in my pre-flop range. Let me see here. Do think there's some merit into continuing to bet with these 4s, try to fold him off a better pair. Oh, and the table broke. Nobody wants to play with me. I guess I'm shoving too many chips in for their liking. Don't have all that great at tables at the moment. Going to keep hopping around looking to find some recreational players. Upper left-hand table, going to open Queen Jack suited under the gun, using an 18% range. Recreational player calls from the cutoff. I will check range to him on the monotone queen high board. I do have top pair. He checks back. I'm going to go ahead and start probing the turn small and pick up some value, deny some equity. Move ourselves closer toward short on with the hand that's good but vulnerable and potentially beat. Upper right-hand table, we're going to open King 10 from the cutoff using the 28% range. Called in position, then squeezed by the big blind. I will just get out of the way against that squeeze with a relatively weak hand like King 10. Just weak in the context of defending a squeeze. Get a 3x open from the button in the lower right-hand table. I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet from my big blind very aggressively, about 15% against that, including King Queen. New table looks promising. Couple 30 blind stacks and a player sitting about 65 blinds. Another player sitting a little shy of 60 blinds. Like what I see here so far. Lower right-hand table, open King 10 from middle position using a 21% range. Get 3-bet 4x by the big blind. Let's go ahead and fold. Lower right-hand table will open Jack 10 suited under the gun, using an 18% range. And got 3-bet in position there as well. I will fold my Jack 10 suited. Lower left-hand table, recreational player limps middle position. I will complete the small blind with King 9, looking to get in and take a cheap flop. Check range on the flop. Short stack, big blind, bets the minimum. I've got an overcard and a gut shot. The limper comes along. I think I can peel that one time trying to hit my king or my 10. It checks around on the turn. The river is the 10. There is a diamond out there at 2 players. I'm not going to get greedy and overbet it. I'm not that worried about king 10, but backdoor diamonds did get there, and there's 2 players. I don't know. Maybe I should get greedy and try to overbet it. I'm going to go ahead and use the overbet size, especially with this guy not having that much money behind him. He could get sticky with various 2-pair combos here. Against the raise, I really got to be concerned he backed into some kind of flush, though. I think I played myself there getting too greedy. Yep, he did back into the nut flush. Lower right-hand table, open Jack 10 from the cutoff using a 28% range. Hey, our hero made the nut flush again. Get a confusionally large 4x open blind on blind in the upper right-hand table first hand. I've got a hand like Ace-Jack, which I really don't want to 3-bet anyway. I just want to go ahead and call. I will get a lot tighter against that larger size up blind on blind here, but I'm still, of course, going to continue with Ace-Jack. Upper left-hand table, open 6s from the cutoff. Checking range to the button on the flop on that Ace-3-8 two-tone board. Turn is another ace. I'm going to go ahead and probe small. Upper right-hand table, I'm going to go ahead and stab for half pot with my Ace-Jack against the flop check. He check calls. Turn is a 10. I think I'd be overbetting my good 10x and my underfools here, and checking as well as some good combo draws, and just checking back most everything else, like Ace-Jack high. Or upper left-hand table against that turn raise, especially with pretty healthy size. I'm just going to go ahead and fold it. Get small raised in position, lower left-hand table, and then a cold 4-bet from a fishy player. Just going to go ahead and fold my 9s against that action. Just going to try to showdown my Ace-Jack, hope it's against a worse ace. I'm against a better ace, but I'm probably not folding not too much like Ace-King there with the river barrel anyway. So I'm content to take my showdown there with at least a decent smidge of it with Ace-Jack high on a paired board. Guy's using strangely large pre-flop sizings like it's 2005, the 4X Open. So he's suspected to be a recreational player. Get a min raise and a small blind 3-bet. I'm going to play cold 4-bet or fold out of the big blind, and I will be folding hands like king, queen offsuit. Only 3-betting jacks are better and ace king, or 4-betting jacks are better, ace king to get in there, and then having the other hands mixed in that can 4-bet and fold versus jam, but will play well in the called 4-bet pot, such as suited combos of ace queen through 10, king queen, king jack, and maybe hands like pocket 10s and ace queen offsuit as well. Effectively, the button open upper right-hand table with king-queen suited. Get 3-bet by the small blind about 4x. Going to go ahead and call with the king-queen suited in position. Get a nice flop, 9-high, 9-4-3, two-tone with I have the flush draw as well with 2 spades out there. Going to be looking to continue one way or another. Against the small flop bet, I'm just going to go ahead and float in position. No reason to raise and certainly no reason to fold. Turn king is a good card for me. Now I've got top pair second kicker. Really only lose to hands like pocket 9s, the case combo of pocket kings, ace king, pocket aces. And I've got good hands to bluff catch here as well. He bets into me. It looks like about 60% of pot. I'm going to go ahead and call that down. Great river for me is now I only lose to ace king or pocket 9s. I've just outdrew pocket aces if he happened to have those. He jams into me, nothing to do but go ahead and call, having backdoored trips, and it's a very lousy run out for me in reality as I ran into better trips against ace-king, but nothing to do differently in that hand. I will definitely sleep just fine at night over that one. Upper left-hand table, open ace-5, blind down blind, using a 45% range. Big blind calls me, I'll check range on the flop. And the queen 9-4 two-tone board. He checks back the turn or the flop. I'm going to go ahead and start probing the turn small. Value bet if I happen to peel an ace on the river. Should probably be bluffing most other hands here. Really not that worried about him having. I think I should probably use the overbet size in this particular spot. Can have ace queen, 9's full, 8's full, 4's full, jack 10. He shouldn't really have too many of those real strong hands, having checked the flop and then only called the small turn bet. Stabbed at that flop small on the lower right-hand table for the minimum. Got check raised large. We'll just go ahead and fold with no real equity. Lower right-hand table, get a recreational player limping middle position. I will isolate out of my blinds with ace-queen suited, using about a 12% range, isolating a tight, strong linear range here. Let me see here. I have all the queens, all the nines, all the eights, all the jack tens suited, so I think I can go ahead and range bet this board. I've got all the real strong hands here. For right-hand table, going to raise a 3-bet, a cold call of the 3-bet. I'll just go ahead and play cold 4-bet or fold out of the blinds, and I'll fold a hand like pocket fives. He goes ahead and raises my lead small. Only got to call 10 into 47. It's going to be an easy call with top pair, top kicker. We'll call and evaluate the turn. He checks back the turn after min raising the flop. I think I want to try to get some thin value against a wreck here, so I'm going to go ahead and play a bet fold line on the river. Hand like queen 10, queen jack will call me down. If he has a hand like tens or jacks, he'll probably call me down. Let a 9x will call me as well. Upper left-hand table, new table, we'll open queen 10 from the button using a 44% range. Against the 3-bet, I will fold the queen 10. Upper left-hand table, we'll open ace-jack suited from middle position using a 21% range. Get 3-bet by the big blind, 4.5x. I'm going to continue pretty tight in this spot as this is a very tight formation. However, a hand like ace-jack suited is just so strong, I'm not going to be folding that. Even deviating to be a bit tighter against the pool that misses 3-bets, I am going to still continue with ace-jack suited. He checks the flop. I can have pocket tens here, but really can't have the other sets. I guess my best hands are going to be pocket tens and ace 10 suited. I think I would probably be betting those on the flop for value and checking back everything else. Ace jack, I don't want to start getting myself trapped against a hand like the case aces or a better aces, ace king, ace queen. I think I'm content to check back the flop in that spot unless I've got a hand that's either some kind of bluff or semi-bluff or something that's more clearly a lock hand. He checks the turn again, or I'm going to go ahead and start stabbing. I'm a lot more comfortable my ace-jack is good on this board now. He really shouldn't have too much in the way of sets of sevens, sets of fives either. He could have sets of tens, but I can't imagine that's going to be check called twice. River is the deuce of clubs. Now, it's not very likely he has a flush. Is the ace high combos are blocked with the ace on the board, and the other flush combos would often be bet. I guess you could have some hands like king jack, 10 jack of clubs that might play a check call line. I think if it was a bit blanker, I would try to steal some value here. As played, I think I'm content to check this back. Hands like kings, queens, jacks are going to be a little bit more suspicious of calling down a second barrel. Lower right-hand table, going to isolate a limper, cutoff limper from my button with queen jack suited using something like my cutoff raise first in range, about 28%. Now he goes ahead and limp calls. I get a king 5 deuce two-tone board. I will go ahead and range bet him small. Can pick up equity on cards like a 10 and keep barreling. Most other cards I would check back this particular hand. He check raises me small, and given that I don't have a whole lot in the way of backdoors, no backdoor flush draw, no overcards, I think it's okay to fold even against this really small size. If he's got a king X, I'm just in so much trouble against a pot that's going to start bloating here, even with the very small raise size, because he did in fact raise. So I will go ahead and fold that one. Upper left-hand table, going to open king queen on the button using, or the blind on blind rather, using the 45% range. Lower right-hand table, got a 2.5x open for middle position. I will defend my big blind with ace-7 suited and check range on the flop. He checks back the flop. Turn is the 6 of diamonds, giving me a backdoor flush draw. I'm going to go ahead and probe the turn small. He comes along for the call. River is a jack. I don't really think I get a whole lot of folds against hands like 10x, pocket 8s, pocket 9s at this point, so I don't see a ton of merit in bluffing. I guess if I'm going to bluff, I've got to use a huge size, as I really do block the world as far as 7s and ace-jack type stuff goes. That's it. I think there's probably more merit in just checking this down. If I want to bluff, I think I'd rather use a hand like king-queen that blocks the jacks a bit better and has less showdown value. Lower right-hand table, going to go ahead and limp the small blind after the cutoff limps. I'm going to go ahead and check range on the flop. I do have a gut shot on the 9-6-3 two-tone board and the backdoor flush draw to go with my 10-7 suited. Flop checks around, turn is the 5. Going to go ahead and probe the turn small. Still have a gut shot, have a double gut shot to the 4, in fact, now as well. Upper left-hand table, got a 3x open blind on blind. I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet with 10-9 suited. 3-betting 17-18%, a smattering of hands. Strong hands for value, some suited connectors, some janky offsuit hands not good enough to call, and a smattering of random suited cards as well. Lower right-hand table of 4 straight. I've got second pair. The recreational player that limped and then called is now potting. I'll just go ahead and get it out of the way. We get 4-bet in the upper left-hand table. 10-9 suited a little too loose to defend the 4-bet with, so I'll go ahead and fold it instead. Upper right-hand table, the recreational player limps blind on blind. I will isolate from the button with queen 6 suited. He limp calls, checks to me on the queen jack 8 two-tone board. I'll go ahead and range bet him small with my weak top pair. Upper left-hand table will open jack 7 suited from the cutoff using a 28% range. Lower left-hand table, I'm facing a 3x open on the button. I'm in the big blind. I will go ahead and defend that for a call with the king 7 suited. Got a nice flop for the king 7 suited, jack 9-7 two-tone, where I have the flush draw to go with my bottom pair. Oh, the small blind was in there as well. I didn't even notice that. I'll go ahead and check on the flop. Lower right-hand table, 2.5x open from the button. I'll defend my big blind with king, or from the cutoff, I'll defend my big blind with king 3 suited. Lower left-hand table, the flop checked around. I'm going to go ahead and probe at it small with my bottom pair. Flush draw. I do block king queen as well, which ain't too shabby. Lower right-hand table, get a continuation bet on the king high board. I've got a weak top pair. He does use a larger size, which makes me a bit more cautious and suspicious, but I'm obviously not folding top pair to 1-bet. Continue checking on the turn. Against the second barrel on the flush closing turn, I'm going to go ahead and actually be a bit nitty and lay this down. Between the size up on the flop, the flush closing turn, the lack of any significant inequity, the reverse implied odds of the hand, I think it's better to get out of there at that point. Lower left-hand table, the cutoff limps. I will isolate from the button with Queen Jack suited using something like my cutoff open range, about 28%. I'm not going to isolate this limper on the lower right-hand table because I've got a pretty weak hand to get all in with against him. He's only got about 6-7 blinds, so I'm going to go ahead and fold that one instead. Lower left-hand table, a short stack recreational player called the isolation out of the blinds and then leads 4 into 26. I've got 2 overcards. I'm going to go ahead and float that in position and try to hit a hand like a card like a jack, which I do. Now I can go with this hand for sure. He bets 8 into 34. He's got 31 left behind. I'm just going to go ahead and shift him all in, force him to call off with whatever kind of pair or draw that he's been doing this with. Lower right-hand table, open Jack 10 from the cutoff using a 28% range. Lower right or upper right-hand table, get a limper blind on blind. I will not raise him up with hands as weak as 10 deuce suited. I will check that one in and take the flop. Now he checks on this King Jack 8 two-tone, so I will just stab for the minimum here. Do have some cards to continue barreling with. Oh, interesting here in that we get a 4x open from a recreational player under the gun. I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet him here with ace-queen suited. I'm trying to think how I want to construct my range, but I know ace-queen suited is going to be a part of it. He's stacking off against the jam with queens plus ace-king. He calls me, get a king 6-4 rainbow board. I'll go ahead and range bet him small. I'm going to do something like a 60-40 ratio of value bets to bluffs, 3-bet about 6-7%. Turn, we get the 10 of diamonds. It gives me a gut shot along with my good removal to the top pairs, the ace, king, king, queen, pocket aces. I'm going to go ahead and barrel with this. I think I want to use a half pot size. Maybe use a 3rd pot size to set up a better river situation. Yeah. River is the king. Set myself up to bet all in about 110 into about 140. He leads into me all in, which means I've got a fold, and they are just beating the hell out of me today. Get a 2.5x open under the gun, a shorter stacked player sitting on about 145, 150 bucks, 3 bets in position. I'm going to go ahead and cold 4-bet and get this in. Get queens plus ace king in here in this particular spot, I think is as wide as I need to be going. I'm not going to have too many bluffs here either because this guy's shorter and I just can't really afford to fold too many hands for this size. So just mix in a few suited Broadway combos here that can fold against a jam but have good removal to the continue range and play well if I get called. Upper right-hand table, got a 2.5x open from the button. I'm in the big blind with 7-6 suited. I would 3-bet this against the button an awful lot, but he's been very reserved, very tight passive, only opening 14% of hands through the first couple of orbits. I'm going to treat this like a bit tighter formation, more like a cutoff open. 3-bet a bit tighter and call a bit tighter. Going to shift the 7-6 suited out of the 3-bet range into the call range because of his perceived tightness in this spot. So I call pre-flop, I check range on the flop. A queen 4 deuce monotone board. Wrong suit is the hearts are on the board and I'm holding the clubs. I do pick up a gut shot on that offsuit 3 there at the turn, so I'm going to go ahead and bet out here and plan to bet the river as well, whether I hit my 5 or not. He comes along for the call. River is a 3, pairing the board. I'm going to follow through and not give up with my 7 high. Lower left-hand table, got a recreational player limps the cutoff. I isolate from the button with king-queen suited. He limp calls and then checks to me. I will range bet him small on the 8-7-7 two-tone board. Upper left-hand table, got a 3x open from middle position. I'm in the big blind with pocket kings. I will go ahead and 3-bet. 3-betting about 8% in this particular spot. Maybe hands like 10s plus my suited broadways, ace king, a couple wheel aces, a couple suited connector or 9x type hands. Upper left-hand table, I'll open the button with King Jack using a 44% range. Lower left-hand table, blind on blind, I will open tens using a 45% range. Big blind calls, I will check range on the King 5-4 rainbow board. Mostly check calling here. Really check calling against anything except some very absurd sizings. Turn is the offsuit king completing the rainbow. Makes my hand relatively stronger as it's now harder for him to have a king. I'm going to go ahead and start probing the turn small for value and for protection. He comes along for the call. River is an 8. He can be very suspicious of me and not having the king, especially in a blind on blind spot and coming on with all kinds of pairs. I think trying to get value here is essentially mandatory, so I'm going to go ahead and bet out. Helps justify all the bullshit bluffs I have in that line there as well, too. That's weird bet sizings. Fishy guy on the lower right-hand table opens the button to 5x. I'm just going to go ahead and fold the sevens. I don't really want to play sevens for stacks in that spot. And it's too, nor do I want to sort of re-raise it and fold it to a jam. Lower left-hand table, get a 2.5x open for middle position. Queen 4 suited a little too loose to defend with, even without the overcaller in there. Kind of right on the cusp without the collar in there. We want to get a good bit tighter with a second player entering the pot. Upper right-hand table, a recreational player limps blind on blind. I will raise him up from the big blind with Queen 10 using something like my button open range, about 44%. Lower left-hand table, I'll open the button with ace-8 using a 44% range. Lower left-hand table again open, this time from the cutoff with king-10 using a 28% range. Get re-raised on the lower right-hand table, and I will fold king-10 against the 3-bet. Upper right-hand table, get a 2.5x open from under the gun. I'm in the cutoff with queen-10 suited. That's a little bit on the loose side to be 3-betting. Pretty close, but I'm going to go ahead and fold that one and sort of stick to my pre-flop plan. Lower left-hand table, we get a 2.25 open from the cutoff, and then a recreational player in the small blind calls. I'm going to go ahead and defend that with the king-3 suited. Getting a real good price. I've got some robust equity if I can hit a flush draw or a flush, and I'm in position against a weak player with the full stack. All that adds up to being a situation I want to put myself into. Lower left-hand table, funky spot here. 2.5x open for middle position. This kind of active, spazzy, splashy player. He goes ahead and 3-bets about a third of his stack on the button. I've got aces, so I'm of course going to raise that up and get that in. I think it's the initial raiser. I want to go with queens plus ace-king and just have some bluffs against him as well. I'm willing to get in the rest of the bluffs because they're going to be high card Broadway hands, ace-queen type hands. The initial raiser just jams over the top. I snap off with my aces, snap off against the queens, and I hold up, even though that runout was starting to get pretty dicey there on the turn. Aces are good, and I pick up a stack. I'll take it right about now. Didn't really earn it by picking up aces against queens, but I'll take it all the same. And for the record, that guy's play with queens, I think, is just fine there. In case it wasn't obvious. Lower right-hand table, open queen 9 on the button using a 44% range. This is right around one of the weakest hands in my button open range, but still a very reasonable, fine hand to open. Small blind folds, but big blind comes along. Flop a gut shot on the Jack 8-4 two-tone board. I'm going to go ahead and range bet small here. He comes along for the call. Turn is a 3 of diamonds, flush closing turn. I have no diamond. I think I'm just want to go ahead and continue, or I'm not rather continue. I'm going to start checking this hand back. I'm going to be using half pot size as opposed to the overbet size on this flush closing turn. Is really the flush closers are great equity equalizers. We can both have a ton of flushes in this spot. I continue betting with my sets, my flushes. A lot of my sort of, decent jacks are better without a diamond. A lot of jack X or a lot of decent one pair hands with a diamond will check back just because they can call a lot of rivers. Hand like queen 9, no diamond, I'm not going to bluff. I think if I had a diamond with the gut shot, I would in fact continue bluffing with it. River he checks. I'm going to go ahead and reopen the river with a bluff here with queen 9. Can also have some various jack X with diamonds that check back the turn, or some stuff like pocket 10s, pocket 9s, some of my 8x type hands I can even bet, I suppose, here for value. And I also have a few flushes that I don't continue barreling with on the turn, usually flushes that have a pair with the 4. In most cases, would be the kind of flushes I check back, or maybe a few of the smaller ones, just for deception and to have some flushes in the check back line as well. For left-hand table, I'll open the button with ace-7 suited using a 44% range. Hit 3-bet by the small blind. Can defend pretty aggressively here, pretty widely in this loose aggressive formation. He's also been very active. He's 3-bet, 3 out of 11, now 4 out of 12 times, so this could be an easy defend on the flop. Flop top pair, top kicker, backdoor flush draw. He checks the flop to me on the 7-6-3 rainbow board. I'm going to go ahead and stab at this for some value against ace high or overcards, as well as equity denial protection type reasons. Upper right-hand table, the rec limps again, blind on blind. I'll pop him up, this time with Jack-10 suited, using something like my button open range. Lower left-hand table, a rec limps middle position. I'll isolate from the cutoff with queens, using something like my middle position open range, about 21%. Upper right-hand table, he limp calls, then checks the flop on the king-5 deuce two-tone board. I'm going to go ahead and range bet small. I do have some backdoor draws to bail me out. He check calls. Turn is a 7 of spades, does nothing for me. Flush closing card, I have no spade. I'm going to be content to check back my Jack-10 here. If he were to let me try to peel a Jack or 10 to bluff catch or value bet on the river, or turn it into a bluff on the river in the bet check bet line. Against the turn lead, though, I'm just going to go ahead and fold. Lower left-hand table, he limp calls. We get an ace-7 deuce two-tone board. Going to go ahead and range bet small. Get check raised on that queen or the ace high board with the queens. You know, not even the queen of diamonds to help me on queen of diamonds. Queen with the queen of diamonds is a better continue here, just because there's two queens I can hit that give me a set that aren't flush closing turns, as opposed to only one. Plus I block some flush draws, which have equity against my continue range. But I'm just going to go ahead and fold queens here against a fish that's check raising an ace high flop. I'm going to go ahead and defend this 10 blind jam from the short stack with ace-10. Lower left-hand table, going to open kings from middle position using a 21% range. Folds all around except for the big blind, who calls and checks to me on the queen-10 deuce rainbow board. I will go ahead and range bet him small. He check calls. Turn is a pretty innocuous 7 of diamonds. Does put a backdoor flush draw out there, but doesn't really coordinate with his flop continue range all that hard at all. I am going to go ahead and play overbet or check, and an overpair like pocket kings is certainly good enough to be in the overbet line in a board like this, so the overbet comes out. I kind of like that 7, is the odds of him having backed into a set on the turn, having gone having gone check call on the flop with pocket 7s, is now greatly reduced. I think I can value bet this hand here again, and for a large size. I mean, I do block king queen, but beyond that, I don't really block his call downs too much. I'm going to go ahead and use the overbet. Go all in for about 3x pot here. Got called down, picked up a stack with my kings with that big 3x bet. Curious to see what he had. And he had queen jack of spades. So not a terribly unreasonable bluff catch hand. He's got top pair. Not sure if I love it in this relatively tighter formation from middle position, but I do love that he did it and paid me off. That's for damn sure. Upper right-hand table, going to open ace-jack under the gun using an 18% range. Lower left-hand table, get a 2.5x open from the button, the player I just stacked with the 3x river overbet, and then the fishy small blind calls. I'm very happy to squeeze the big blind here with a hand like king-queen suited, squeezing 14-15% pretty aggressively in this spot. Button opener comes along, fish folds out. We get a queen 8 deuce two-tone board. I'm going to go ahead and put in the small range bet. Upper right-hand table, a fish in the big blind calls the open and then leads into me 6 into 10 on the queen jack 4 two-tone board. I'm going to call at least once with the ace jack. And what I do is going to depend heavily on his bet sizing going forward. He bets 2/3 again. It's not the best turn for me as it completes both straights and flushes. I don't have any hearts in my hand to bail me out. If I'm against a made hand or a queen X type hand, I'm pretty close to dead in the water. I also block the Jack X type hands. I think it's okay to fold on that particular turn card. If he had bet smaller, I'll come along. He's betting 2/3, so it's not necessarily a terribly weak line from a fish. Lower left-hand table, the middle position limps, I'll isolate from the cutoff with king-jack using something like my middle position open range, about 21%. Upper left-hand table, open kings from the cutoff using a 28% range. The rec limp calls, you get a 9-5-4 rainbow board. I'll go ahead and put in a small range bet. Lower right-hand table, open ace-queen suited under the gun, using an 18% range. Upper right-hand table, open ace-8 suited for middle position, using a 21% range. Upper left-hand table, it looks like the small blind comes along. I will go ahead and range bet him small on the queen 6-4 two-tone board. Let me see here. Turn is a 10 on the upper left-hand table that completes the rainbow. I'm going to go ahead and continue betting with my overpair, but I'm not going to be using the overbet size here against the small blinds. His range is going to be a lot more set heavy. He can have 4s, 6s, 10s calling out of the small blind. So I'm going to use the smaller size in here as we don't have as big a nut advantage as you might otherwise think. Lower right-hand table, get 3-bet in position. I've got ace-queen suited, which is a prime hand for defending 3-bets even out of position, so I'm going to go ahead and call that and check range on the flop. Upper right-hand table, I got check raised. I don't have any real equity. He's a fish. I'm just going to go ahead and fold out. Let's see here. Upper right-hand table, we're going to go ahead and try to get some value. It's not too scary a board. I'm going to go ahead and put in a check raise with my 2 overcards, backdoor flush draw on the lower right-hand table. Plan to just blast off on the turn if I pick up more equity. He check calls. Turn is the offsuit 9. I don't have any real draws here. If I had a 10 or a jack, I think I could even jam, especially if I had a 10 in some way. Give me the open ender. Pick up the clubs, Bob. I don't have the clubs. I've got the spades. The backdoor clubs is what picked up. I'm just going to go ahead and slow this down. And this player over here called me 3 streets with 5-4 suited, so perhaps he's a bit fishier than I gave him credit for, calling out of the small blind like that with the full stack. Full stack usually means reg, but calling the small blind usually does not. I am not going to get involved here and blast off in this big pot here in a tight formation. I did get a chance to realize my equity. Had I picked up a queen or a jack, I could have got some more value against the jack, or an ace or a queen rather, could have picked up another value bet on the river against the jacks. I think my play is okay. I can fold out a lot of his unpaired type hands there with that check raise. And I did have overcards that were live, of course, too, along with that backdoor flush draw. Get a 3x open under the gun on the lower right-hand table. I'm in the big blind with 7-6 suited. Going to be pretty tight with my 3-bets here. Probably only 3-betting about 6%, but I can still call quite a few hands like 7-6 suited. Pretty good flop for 7-6 suited, 7-5, 3, 2-tone. I do have the backdoor flush draw. Upper right-hand table will open blind on blind with Jack-8 suited using a 45% range. We'll check range on the flop. Ace-10-9 rainbow. I've got the open-ended straight draw. I will go ahead and lead the turn now. That ace pairing turn after he checks through. River, we go ahead and we brick out, but I'm not going to show down my jack high. I'm going to bluff for 2/3. Lower right-hand table will check call with my top pair and my gut shot. Picked up a backdoor flush draw to go with my top pair. And he goes and puts in an overbet, about 125% of pot. Having picked up that flush draw, I think it's going to be okay to check call here. River, the queen of clubs. I'm pretty much done with this hand. I'm going to just go ahead and check. He got some good value there with the 9s, getting some overbet value on that turn, even without the overpair when the 10 peeled off. I think that's a pretty reasonable play by him. He seems like he's probably pretty decent, mixing in the overbet size the way he did. This table, however, is good as we've got a confirmed rec here in the seat right before me, and then 2 seats before me, we've got a guy who's using funky pre-flop sizings. He's 33-8 over 12 hands. He's playing $130 deep in a 1-2 game. Pretty comfortable calling him a recreational player as well. So while the guy in front of me may seem like he's a pretty decent player, I do have the direct position on 2 almost certainly weak, fishy players, which is good. Got a limper up here. Games look pretty good. Lower right-hand table going to open King-Jack from the button using a 44% range. Lower left-hand table going to open deuces from middle position using a 21% range. Upper left-hand table will open 10s under the gun using an 18% range. Lower left-hand table, my deuces got 3-bet in position. Just going to go ahead and fold them. Get 3-bet by the big blind in the lower right-hand table. Going to go ahead and fold my King-Jack against the 3-bet. Lower right-hand table going to open Ace-Jack from the cutoff using a 28% range. I'm going to shuffle this table out as the rec players had direct position on both just left. I'm going to go ahead and range bet the big blind small here on Queen 9-6 2-tone. He comes along for the call. Turn is an 8. I do have a gut shot, but I don't have a flush draw blocker, and I have plenty of gut shots on that board. I've got lots of Jack X, lots of 10X type hands, lots of 7X for open enders as well. No reason to bet one this week. If I'm looking to sort of organize my 1-card gut shots, I'm going to prioritize the ones that have flush draw blockers, I think. So if I had the ace of diamonds, I'd be barreling here, but without, I'll just go ahead and check back. And he goes ahead and blasts for pot. I'll just go ahead and lay my ace-jack down. Actually going to shut the session down here too with that other table breaking. It's about that time. Lower left-hand table, going to open ace-queen from the button using a 44% range. Right-hand table, got a 2.5x open under the gun. I will 3-bet from the cutoff with king-queen suited. 3-betting about 8% in this spot. Nines are better. Most of my suited broadways, ace-king, ace-queen, ace-jack, a couple of suited wheel aces. He calls. We get a 10-4-3 two-tone flop. Going to go ahead and put in a small range bet, assuming he checks to me. He leads into me for 10 into 33. But that's small size in position. I don't think I should be folding too much. King Queen is one of the weaker hands I have here. Yeah, I guess King Queen, no backdoor flush draw. King Queen, King Jack, Queen Jack, no backdoor flush draw are my weakest hands. So I guess it's going to be okay to fold. It doesn't seem like I should be folding a whole lot to this, but I think I can. Think I can go ahead and do it. Just because I should still have a couple of folds against that size. Not very many combos, but a few. And like I can always fold some of your worst hands against a bet. You know, ace five is a gut shot. Ace four is a pair. You know, pocket pairs are all pairs or sets. So then it just comes down to the overcards are going to be the worst cards, and the ones without some kind of flush draw or backdoor flush draw are going to be the weakest hands in range. So yeah, king queen, both offsuit and suited without backdoor flush draws, and then king queen, king jack. I'm sorry, king jack, queen jack without backdoor flush draws are going to be the weakest hands. The hands you should be looking to find your folds from in that spot. It looks like that's it for the session. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed watching. I sure enjoyed making it. Until next time, this is Charlie Murphy signing off.